What is up, everybody? Louis back here again for UFC 293 in Australia. Not the greatest card, but, Sean Strickland is going to fight Adesanya for the 185-pound title. So, it could be a potentially massive, huge, giant upset. You also got a banger. You got TUIVASA and Alexander Volkov. Probably going to have a slugfest at heavyweight. So, that should be violent. And then you got Manel Kape, was supposed to take on a big contender in Kai France. Didn't happen, so he's taking on Felipe dos Santos. So Felipe dos Santos comes in on his first UFC fight and beats Manel Kape. You got a new star, so that's fine. Carlos ULBERG is going to continue his reign of terror at light heavyweight. Hopefully, if he gets past Jung, they give him somebody legitimate. So, yeah, let's just get right into it. I had a horrible week last week, so just going to forget it and move on. First fight of the night at 170 pounds, men's welterweight. Kevin JOUSSET taking on CROSBIE. Kevin JOUSSET took on Prelims Fogagnolo his last fight. In the first round, he gets clinched to the fence, and then he gets pressed, eats a couple straight shots, but then he gets pressed again, but he eats a couple body shots in the pocket, but then he lands a knee to the head. They both kind of land hooks, and they get into a clinch situation, but then he backs up, he starts landing some leg kicks, then he lands some front kicks to the midsection, gets the tie clinch, and lands some knees to the head, followed up with some elbows, so he's getting a little nasty. Then in the third round, he stuffs the clinch attempt, he lands an elbow and some body kicks in the pocket, but then he gets taken out with the blast double, but then he's able to swim him off of his back, get into half guard, finish strong. So pretty good situational positioning on the ground. CROSBIE took on Georgi Kataryan, his last fight in Bellator. So he took on, before that he took on Charlie Leary, because that's the only one I could find. It was in Bellator as well. In the first round, he gets pressed forward with some crosses and some uppercuts and eats a couple hooks in the pocket. Then he starts landing some lead hooks and some overhands at range. He's able to stuff the single leg attempt. He's able to land a couple left hooks, followed up by an overhand and then a front kick and some elbows. But then he walks into some jabs and some hooks, and then he gets dropped with the right cross up against the fence. And they stop a TKO doctor stoppage. So, CROSBIE plus 130, Kevin JOUSSET minus 155. Honestly, don't know too much about either guy. I just think, CROSBIE, he didn't have a lot of activity. Kevin JOUSSET looks like the more complete fighter. I think he could take it to the ground. But, the line's not too bad. I'm going to go with Kevin JOUSSET, not a hard one. Second fight of the night, 145 pounds, men's featherweight. Shane Young taking on Gabriel Miranda. Shane Young took on Blake Builder his last fight. In the first round, he lands some step-in jabs, but then he gets pressed and he walks into some lead hooks. Then he gets taken out of the body like lift off when he throws his body kick, ends up in half guard. Then in the second round, he's able to duck the hook and he lands a counter right hook, but then he eats a jab in the pocket, but then he's able to shoot a high single. Can't quite finish it though, but he's able to break up the rhythm. But then he cuts him off on the cage and he lands a couple hooks. Then in the third round, he lands some more leg kicks. He lands a 1-2-1 combination. He's looking for his jabs and some straights, but then he eats some hooks over the top. Then he gets rocked with a straight right toward the end of the round. And Gabriel Miranda took on Benoit Saint-Denis his last fight. This was his debut, I believe. So, tough task. In the first round, he eats a body kick, but then he's able to shoot the double. He gets reversed with a whizzer, though. But then he lands some hooks and knees in the clinch, and then he's able to hurt him with a couple straight rights. But then he eats a back fist whenever he tries to trip him, and then he gets reversed in a clinch situation. He looks for the leg lock, though, on the ground right away. So he's got some tricks up his sleeve. But then he gets pressed, and he gets dropped with a couple hooks, and he eats some ground and pound inside control. Then he gets dropped with some overhands, and Benoit Saint-Denis really starts turning it on him. Then in the second round, he gets pressed with some overhands and some hooks, and up against the fence, gets knocked out. It was a continuation of the end of the first round, but he was tough, he's scrambly, so tough task, like I said. Gabriel Miranda plus 130, Shane Young minus 155. I'm going to go with Gabriel Miranda. Didn't really see a ton that would make me think he's going to beat Shane Young, but Shane Young didn't really show me much, and he's the favorite, and I don't know why. So I'm going to go with Gabriel Miranda, he's scrappy, so I like that line a little bit. Third fight of the night, 170 pounds, men's welterweight. Blood Diamond taking on Charles RADTKE. Blood Diamond took on Orion Kosuke his last fight. In the first round, he eats a hook and an elbow inside the pocket. He gets clinched up against the fence, but he's able to reverse the clinch, but then he gets hip tossed right into side control. Has a heck of a time getting up, unfortunately. But then he's able to land a head kick off the cross at the end. Starts feeling himself on the feet in the second round. He really turns it around. Second round, he lands a left hook counter off the overhand, but then he gets clinched up to the fence again. But then he's able to land a short hook and a body kick, and then a front face kick. Nasty stuff. He lands a short hook in the pocket, and then he's able to rock him with a back fist. Gets the tie clinch, lands a knee to the head and to the body. Comes up top, lands some hooks to the head. He's able to get the clinch, but he won't break away. He has him hurt, and he decides to clinch with him, which I would never understand. So that IQ is terrible. Then in the third round, didn't go well for him. He lands a lead elbow, and then a teep, and then a check hook. But then he gets clinched up again, and then he gets taken out with a lateral drop. And then he gives up his back in the body triangle for the rest of the round. Could not get out at all. So, sucks. He was really looking good in the second round. Bad IQ moment at the end of that round. And then he did not try to break away in the clinch in the third round, and it cost him. So, Charles RADTKE took on Raheem Forrest his last fight. This was outside of the UFC. Don't remember what promotion. But he rocks him with a left hook. But then he cuts him off on the cage. He gets cut off on the cage and eats the right hook, but then he walks into a jab and a right hook, and he gives up his back, gets mat returned, but then he's able to hit like some sort of Peterson rule when he gets to his feet, and then he's able to get on top, gets an arm triangle position from half guard, and then he's able to take his back, gets both hooks in, and gets a rear naked choke submission. So, yeah, he can, pretty slick on the ground. Charles RADTKE minus 325, Blood Diamond plus 260. I'm just going to go with Blood Diamond because he showed me a lot of promise in that second round, and if he wouldn't have clinched with him after he hurt him really bad on the feet, he might have been able to finish him. And if he just realizes he should not clinch with anybody, he's got a shot. That line's a little ridiculous. Charles RADTKE is not worth minus 325. I'm going to go with Blood Diamond. Fourth fight on the night. 155 pounds, men's lightweight, Nasrat Haqparast taking on Landon Quinones. Could be fun fight, could be boring. We'll see. Nasrat took on John MAKDESSI in the first round. He looks for some lead hooks and a head kick, just kind of circles outside. Doesn't do much, neither guy does. Second round, he lands some jabs at range. He lands a step in 1-2, and then he steps in, rips the body a couple times. Then he lands a lead left and some right hooks, and then lands a hook to the body, and then he drops him with the left hook off of his back fist. Really good eye for some counters. But then he lands a jab and a hook whenever he gets pressed. Then in the third round, kind of slows down a little bit. He gets pressed and he eats a 1-2. But then he lands a double jab and then a left, moving backwards. Double jab, left cross, and then he's in and out, and he kind of circles on the outside, and then he hits a blast double a couple times when he gets pressed. Doesn't do much with it, so I don't know. But yeah, he looked really good in the second round. Landon Quinones took on Yemi Adewale in Titan FC's last fight, so this will be his first UFC fight. In the first round, he presses forward with some jabs up against the fence. He's able to duck the straight right, and then he lands a hook to the head. Comes up, lands a hook to the head, and then he lands a body kick at range. He lands a jab. He's able to reverse the clinch position up against the fence. Then in the second round, he lands a jab off the hook, and he starts ripping the body on the fence. He lands an uppercut and some hooks, and then he drops him with the left cross, gets the KO. So, TKO on the ground. So, yeah, pretty nasty, but, I don't know how good that guy was. Landon Quinones, plus 360. Nasrat Haqparast, minus 470. Line's outrageous. Hopefully, Nasrat wins. Landon Quinones, might be able to knock him out, but I can't remember last time Nasrat's got knocked out. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Nasrat. Minus 470 is completely insane. Decision, plus 110. Not a bad play, though, but I'm going to stick with Nasrat. I really hope he wins. Fifth fight of the night, 155 pounds, men's lightweight. You got Jamie Mullarkey taking on John MAKDESSI. Jamie Mullarkey took on Muhammad Naimov his last fight, and not a great night for him. He was looking good, but first round he lands a jab, and then he gets a body lock, drags him down, takes his back, doesn't do much with it though, but he lands some body kicks up against the fence. He looks for some trips, lands a couple elbows though, and then he just kind of rips the body, then he'll get to the clinch. He's really looking for that clinch. That was something he kept going back to. Then in the second round, he kind of walks into some jabs. Then he lands a right cross at range. But then he gets a body lock trip off the fence. Doesn't do a whole lot with it, though. Back on the feet, he lands some straight to the body, and then he rushes in with his hands down, and then he eats the right hook and gets knocked out of nowhere. So, yeah, he was kind of controlling most of that fight and got hit with one shot. So, he just had a bad low IQ moment, so I don't know what to make of that. John MAKDESSI took on Ignacio Bahamondes his last fight in the first, or actually no, in his second to last fight. His last fight he took on Nasrat Haqparast, and this fight against Ignacio Bahamondes was a couple years ago, so not a whole lot of tape on John recently. In the first round, he rocks him with the counter left hook off of his jab, then he lands an uppercut up to the clinch in the fence. Then he touches him with some straight rights. He's able to cut him off on the fence. Then he's able to stuff the single leg against the fence, but then he eats a couple jabs standing at range. Then in the second round, he eats a lead left hook at range, but then he presses with some 1-2s, but then he gets backed up with the 1-2 uppercut combination, but then he lands a couple body shots off of jabs, and then in the third round, he's able to stuff the double up against the fence, but then he eats a knee. Then he gets clipped with some uppercuts in the clinch, but then he's able to land a hook, counter hook. Then he stays on the outside. out of the range of some of the power shots and the jabs and the straights, and just kind of plays it safe in the third round, kind of. So, yeah, I don't really know what to make of that. John MAKDESSI plus 245, Jamie Mullarkey minus 305. John MAKDESSI, I believe he's coming up from, no, he's at lightweight. Yeah, so John MAKDESSI, you know, he can get nasty and get scrappy in there and land some big shots. So can Jamie Mullarkey. I think Jamie Mullarkey's going to be heavy on the clinch. He might be a little tepid to rush in there because he just got knocked out. John MAKDESSI hits kind of hard, doesn't really have a ton of knockout power, but I don't know. I kind of think these guys are on similar skill levels, and this line's really out of whack for Jamie Mullarkey because he's the hometown guy. So, John MAKDESSI plus 245. I'm going to roll the dice. John MAKDESSI by knockout plus 800. Jamie Mullarkey just got knocked out. I don't know. It could happen. I'm going to give John MAKDESSI. Why not? Who cares? Sixth fight of the night, 145 pounds, men's featherweight, Jack Jenkins taking on Chepe Mariscal. Jack Jenkins took on Jamal Emmers his last fight. In the first round, he pressures forward, but then he walks into a couple of teep kicks, but then he lands some leg and some body kicks at range. He lands a jab, followed up with a head kick on the fence, but then he walks into a jab and some hooks combinations in the pocket. But he's scrapping the whole time. Then in the second round, he starts pressing with some jabs and some leg kicks. Then he lands a couple overhands and some lead hooks, but then he gets clipped sometimes. Then he eats a jab and a body hook. They kind of go in the pocket. And then he lands a head kick and a jab, but then he backs up, looking for the check hook, but then he eats a cross instead. Then he gets a body lock trip off of the back fist, but then he kind of slides off the back, just kind of rushes it a little bit. He's still pretty green. Then in the third round, he gets knee picked off the fence. Then he's able to get up eventually, but he's down there for about 2.5 minutes. But then he's able to stuff the headlock attempt in the clinch, and then he's able to get the half guard, but then he gets swept and gets written out for the rest of the round. So not a great round for him. I don't know if he was just tired or what, but yeah. And then Chepe Mariscal took on Trevor Peek as the last fight. In the first round, they get into a slugfest, and they get into a clinch. He lands a knee to the head up against the fence, and then a hook when they're in the clinch, and then he gets a hip toss, takes his back, rear naked choke attempt. Should have had it, but he didn't because Trevor Peek is weird, so I don't know. But yeah, it was a pretty deep choke. But then he gets pressed with some hooks in a blitz, and he eats a head kick. But he's like pretty good at moving the whole time. But then he lands some counter hooks in the pocket, and then he's able to get the hip toss at the end of the round. Then in the third round, he gets a body lock trip off the fence right into half guard. But then he gets rushed, and he eats a couple body shots, and he lunges for a single and then eats a hook. He sticks his neck way out there. But then he drops him with the leg kick, and he's able to take his back, but he slides off. But then he's able to reverse, and he's able to get the clinch up against the fence, kind of slow the pace down. Then in the third round, he eats a hook and a blitz, but then he's able to get that body lock again. And that's kind of, you know, where he would go, just got to get centered and regroup. Then he lands some counter overhands when he has his back up against the fence, and then he lands some face kicks up against the fence, and then a hook flurry at the end there. So, yeah, pretty wild fight. Chepe Mariscal plus 180, Jack Jenkins minus 220. Yeah, Trevor Peek's not a good fighter. He can hit really hard, but that's about it. And he's really unpredictable. Not really unpredictable, but he's kind of wild. But yeah, Chepe, you know, hung in there, said that he's the more technical fighter, but I think Jack Jenkins is more calculated, and I think, yeah, I mean, they're both okay on the ground. I just think Jack Jenkins has the better experience. Trevor Peek's not that good, and I think Jack Jenkins is on the rise. So, yeah, the line, I don't love that line, but, you know, I think he gets it done. Jack Jenkins minus 220, not a bad play. Jack Jenkins by decision plus 120, I can see that happening, but, yeah, I can see him getting a couple of takedowns here or there, landing some clean shots. So, yeah, I'm going to go Jack Jenkins. Main event of the prelims, 205 pounds, men's light heavyweight. Carlos Black Jag or Ladies Night Ulberg taking on Jung. Carlos Ulberg on a bit of a tear, so, you know, Jung not really going to help him get ahead, but if he has a good performance, I'll probably get him a ranked opponent next. So, Carlos Ulberg took on Ihor Potieria his last fight. Not much to it. First round, lands a head kick at range, and then he backstep left hook. Whenever Ihor goes for a single, drops him with that, ground and pound TKO. So, and that's kind of how a lot of his fights have been going. So, just really calculated, waits for somebody to rush him, and pinpoint accuracy. So, and then Jung, he took on Devin Clark his last fight, but before that, he took on Dustin Jacoby. Dustin Jacoby and Carlos Ulberg have similar styles. So, in the first round, he throws a jump knee, and then he stalks with a jab, lands a 1-2, kind of clips him with it. But then he lands an overhand right in the pocket, but then he eats a jab off of his straight right, and then just gets TKO'd, or just gets knocked out like right away. So, eats a jab and a straight right. So, yeah. kind of left himself wide open. Dustin Jacoby doesn't have a ton of power, but he has pinpoint accuracy as well, so he can get it done sometimes. Jung plus 235, Carlos Ulberg minus 290. I'm going to go with Carlos Ulberg. Ihor Buttario, you know, he might get it, or sorry, Jung might be able to get in there and mix it up, but, you know, he's just really tentative, and, yeah, like, Carlos isn't going to, like, try to wrestle him like Devin Clark did, and then Carlos Ulberg is going to be a lot more technical, and I see it going similar to how Dustin Jacoby went. So I'm going to go with Carlos Ulberg. Line's a little wide, but Carlos Ulberg by knockout, minus 135, not a black play. I'm going to go with Black Jag on this one. Okay. First fight of the pay-per-view, 205 pounds, men's light heavyweight, Tyson Pedro taking on Anton Turkalj, a.k.a. The Pleasure Man. Tyson Pedro took on MAKDESSI Bukauskas his last fight in the first round. He pressures him to the cage. He lands a body kick, then he throws a jab, and then gets a clinch, gets a body lock trip takedown, and he gets a guillotine, pulls it, tries to roll on top of it, can't really get it though. But then he eats a lead hook in the pocket, and he really starts slowing down after the first round dramatically. And then in the second round, he eats a right cross whenever he's kind of circling away. Then he lands a body kick at range, but neither guy really does much. And then in the third round, he lands an overhand right in the clinch up against the fence, but then he eats a couple of flurries up against the fence, just kind of gets caught, and just didn't throw enough, as MAKDESSI did, and MAKDESSI got the decision. So, yeah, it was a weird fight. And then Anton Turkalj took on Vitor Petrino his last fight. In the first round, he gets taken out of the body lock trip off of some body hooks. Then he gets clinched up to the fence. Then he's able to get the inside trip takedown, but he's not able to hold him down for very long at all. Then he like jumps in, lands across, but then he eats a hook combination. But then he's able to land an up kick on the ground. Kind of hurt him, so it's pretty wild. Then in the second round, he eats an uppercut in the pocket exchange. But then he lands. And then he eats a right hook whenever he's backing up, but then he jumps into the body lock trip. But then he's able to get up, and he's able to drag him back down, take his back, but then he gets reversed, and he has his back several times in this fight, but he cannot maintain position. He like does not make any adjustments. Then they get into a scramble, and he's able to take his back again, but then he gets reversed again, and then he rocks him with the hook blitz, and whenever he clinches him, but he's not able to get the trip. Then in the third round, he drags him down. He's able to take the back. He gets a body triangle locked in there, but then he gets reversed. Petrino just turns right into him, and then he's able to defend the rear naked choke attempt, though, with no hooks, and he's able to get out, and then he's able to take his back, slides off. I think this happens another time, but yeah, you get the deal. But yeah, he's scrappy, and he's in the fight, and, you know, he does get tired, but he keeps going. So, yeah, he's got heart. Anton Turkalj minus 110, Tyson Pedro minus 110. I'm going to go with the Pleasure Man because Tyson Pedro slows down dramatically in rounds 2 and 3, and Anton Turkalj is sloppy, not technical, but he keeps going, and that might be enough, and the line's even. I'm going to go with Anton, the Pleasure Man. Why not? Second fight of the night, 265 pounds, men's heavyweight, Justin Tafa taking on Austin Lane. It's a rematch of the last fight. I already covered this. I picked Justin Tafa. In the last fight, Austin lands a couple body kicks, and then Justin steps in to throw a cross, eye poke, so we don't have any information. I don't really feel like going back and watching more tape again. I picked Justin Tafa the last fight. I'm going to stick with it. This time he's in his hometown, so hopefully it helps. The line's a little wide, but it's heavyweight, and I think Justin Tafa's on a roll. So Justin Tafa minus 200. I'm going to go with him. I hope he gets it done. Okay, real quick, I'm going to, for that heavyweight fight, Justin Tafa and Austin Lane, go over 1.5 plus 175. Neither guy makes it out of the first round, so over 1.5, I don't think it's too much to ask. You get plus money. I like that one. We'll see what happens. Not a great fight. Feature fight of the night, 125 pounds, men's flyweight, Manal Cop, Starboy, number 10, taking on Felipe dos Santos, UFC newcomer coming in on short notice. Huge opportunity for Felipe, and it's an opportunity for Manel to get back in the cage and get a good victory, hopefully take on Kai Kara France next, because that's who he was supposed to fight. The flyweight division needs to get moving here. Manel Cop took on David Dvorak his last fight. In the first round, he pressures forward, but then he gets taken down off of a back kick, but then he rips the Kimura roll, and the Kimura rolls over top, and he's able to step over his head, but there's short time, like 20 seconds left. He extends it as far as it will go, and if there's any more time, he would have got the submission, but he couldn't do it, but it was nasty. It looked like his whole entire shoulder was about to break. In the second round, he lands a left hook in the clinch. He lands a knee to the body whenever he gets pressed. And then he lands a right hook, and then he drops him with the left hook to the body, right hook to the head up against the fence. And then he's able to cut him off on the cage and rips to the body again. He's just nasty. He's very calculated, doesn't waste any movement. Then in the third round, he lands a 1-2 off of his overhand, but then he's across that range with his hands down. He starts goofing around and showing off. Didn't really do much, but, you know, I thought he got he knocked him down twice in the second round and thought he got a 10-8 around there, so whatever. And he almost had him finished a couple times. Felipe dos Santos, he took on Hugo Paiva in the LFA his last fight. In the first round, he blitzes with some 1-2s, but then he gets pressured back with some hooks, but he looks for some counter elbows up against the fence. Then he eats a couple body shots in the firefight, but then he's able to land a left hook. And then he shoots a double up against the fence, can't really finish. But then he eats a bunch of body shots in the firefight, but then he misses with some uppercuts. He shoots some blast doubles throughout the round, but he's unable to hold him down very long at all. But it's at least good to break up the rhythm. Then in the second round, he lands a knee to the head, but he pressures forward, but then he eats a couple leg kicks and some more body shots. And then he lands a couple jabs, and he's able to complete the double off the fence. Again, can't hold him down very long. Lands a couple elbows up against the fence, but then he walks right into a double at the end there. Then in the third round, you know, both guys are tired, so he walks into a couple body shots and some leg kicks. Then he lands a couple jabs, and then he's able to get the blast double. Again, not for very long, but then he gets doubled whenever he's coming in, and he gets held down for a little bit. He lands some jabs, and he's able to cut him off on the fence, and he's able to complete the double off the fence, but doesn't do a whole lot with it. Felipe dos Santos, plus 320, Manel Kopp, minus 410. Yeah, line's crazy, and this is like a setup for a massive upset with an underdog coming in on short notice. But Felipe dos Santos is 22 years old, and his last fight did not show me much. I mean, it could have been a split decision. His fight before that was a split decision. You know, doesn't have show-stopping power or anything, and Manel, you know, I think he'll be able to defend the takedowns, and if he doesn't, he'll be able to get up or pull some sort of submission. So, you know, you kind of need Manel to slip on a banana peel for him to lose. So I'm going to pick Manel. Minus 410 is a little pricey. I really don't know if he can knock this guy out, though. So that's why I don't know. The fight to go over 2.5 rounds plus 165, I don't know. So if I'm going to pick anything, I'm going to pick that one, because under 2.5 for minus 215, I don't know. These newcomer Brazilian guys on Charles Oliveira's team, they can take some punches. So, but yeah, I'm just going to stick with Manel Kopp. It's just kind of one of those fights you got to lay the chalk on. But yeah, we'll see. Co-main event of the evening, 265 pounds, men's heavyweight, Tai Bam Bam Tuivasa, ranked number 6, taking on Alexander Drago Volkov, ranked number 7. Both guys could use a win here. Volkov's on a couple fight win streak, so he's trying to get back into the title conversation somehow. And Ty's coming off of 2 losses. 2 good guys, but you know, he wants to get back on track. He wants his name out there again. He wants to be a name they talk about at heavyweight. So a lot on the line for both guys, but also I think it could be a banger. We'll see. Tai Tuivasa took on Cyril Gahn. Actually, he took on Sergey Pavlovich and, you know, got into a firefight and lost. So, but before that, he took on Cyril Gahn, who fights more like Volkov does. In the first round, he lands a dip in overhand right, but then eats a couple body kicks at range, but then he eats a couple jabs and a head kick. Then in the second round, he lands an overhand. He gets to the clinch, but then he eats a couple jabs and some body kicks coming in. But then he's able to cut him off, and he looks for some lead left hooks. He'll throw 2 in a row. Couldn't hit him, though. But then he's able to drop him with the right hook off of Cyril's jab, and then he clips him with a couple right hooks. But then he gets rocked and gets put and just like walks back, eats some nasty body kicks. Then he eats a couple jabs at range. But then he's able to block the body kick, but then he eats a head kick because Cyril was setting him up for that. But then he misses with an overhand. Then he eats a front face kick. Then he gets KO'd with a check uppercut whenever he's rushing in for some overhands, and then eats some ground and pound. So, yeah, kind of sucks, but, you know, he was just getting eaten alive with those body kicks, so he had to do something, and Cyril caught him. So, whatever. But he dropped Cyril Gahn, and that's not nothing. Volkov, he took on Alexander Romanov, his last fight, but, you know, Tai Tuivasa is not going to wrestle. So before that, he took on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. In the first round, he lands some teeps and some leg kicks and some jabs at range. But then his kick gets caught and he eats a couple hooks. But then he lands a right cross up against the fence and starts landing a flurry and gets a TKO on the fence. Early stoppage. Doesn't matter. He was going to finish him anyway. So, yeah. Alexander Volkov, minus 240. Tai Tuivasa, plus 195. You got to go with Tai Tuivasa. Plus 200 underdog. Hometown guy. You know, Volkov does fight similarly to Cyril Gahn, and, you know, he probably will have trouble getting on the inside, but I think he can do it somehow. It's just going to take one punch. I think he can knock him out. We'll see. I mean, Alex, on paper, Alex is probably going to win, but, I'm not going to bet on him for minus 240 at heavyweight. So I'm going to go with TUIVASA. We'll see what happens. I think he could crack him one time. So we'll see. Main event of the evening at 185 pounds, men's middleweight for the title. Israel, the last stylebender, Adesanya, the champion, taking on number 5, Sean Tarzan Strickland. Should be a fun one. Sean Strickland doesn't really deserve to be here, but he did what the company asked him to do. He beat the number 12 ranked guy. He beat an unranked guy, knocked him out in the second round. So, and DDP is injured, so Sean Strickland's sliding right in there. That's why it's important to win fights as often as you possibly can, even if the guy isn't a big name, because you might get an opportunity. So, yeah. Israel Adesanya took on Alex Pereira for the second time in his last fight. In the first round, he pumps some jabs at range, or he looks for a step in, 1-2. But then he clips him with some body kicks, but then he eats some leg kicks at range, and then he looks for some step in crosses, and he's really taking his time in his first round. But then in the second round, he throws the question mark kick, but then he gets pressed back with a head kick, and then he gets cut off on the fence, and then he gets clipped with a couple straights to the body and the head, but then he eats a left hook off of his jab, just kind of lunging a little bit. But then he's able to land a jab followed up with a right cross, starts adding that into the mix. Then he eats a jab whenever he's walking towards him, but then he starts ripping the body. But then he gets wobbled with a leg kick, and then he eats a hook. But then he kind of circles off, and he eats a couple hooks up against the fence. And Pierre's going to work. He thinks he's going to finish him here. And then Izzy lands overhand, rocks him, another overhand, knocks him out. So, yeah, who knew? I don't think Izzy has, if he hits you on the button, he has show-stopping power. But it's more so like Pierre. Chin isn't that great, especially cutting down to 185. But nevertheless, still impressive to knock him out. Sean Strickland took on Abus Magomedov his last fight. In the first round, he gets pressed with a couple front kicks, and then he gets clipped with the hook off of his jab. But then he starts pressing forward with some jabs. They're a little short, and then he eats a couple leg kicks. Then he gets clipped with a head kick up against the fence, and then he kind of walks into the hook at the end there. But he kind of knew Agabus was a first-round fighter, so he kind of just let him empty the tank. And then in the second round, you could see how good his cardio is and how bad Abus's is. So very fun second round. He lands a jab and then a right cross and a couple straight combos up against the fence. And he does this a bunch of times. He'll catch him on the fence and just unload and take his time and just make sure he's hitting him in the right spots and not tiring himself out. Then he lands some straight combos to the head and the body, and he lands a double jab, left hook, and then followed up with the right overhand. Then he lands a flurry, but then he eats a body hook in return a couple times, but, he's fine pretty much. But then he backs out of the overhands, then he's able to drop with the 1-2, and then he gets a TKO via ground and pound. So, yeah, he just took his time and just kept piecing him up for basically the entire round. There's a minute left, and then he turned it on, got the TKO. So, yeah. Sean Strickland's got amazing cardio. Izzy's got pretty good cardio, too, so should be interesting. Sean Strickland plus 490, Israel Adesanya minus 675. Yeah, Izzy's probably going to win, but I'm not betting that on him. Sean Strickland has a chance some way, somehow. He has excellent cardio. That's not nothing. Maybe Sean can out-hustle him or something. Who knows? But, Sean's a pretty solid striker. He does leave his chin up in the air. He did get knocked out by Pierre, so hopefully he's aware of that and he fixes that. But, Sean's a dog. He gets in there and he fights, So, plus 490, basically plus 500. Why not? Should be fun. It'd be more fun to bet on him than Izzy. So I'm going to go with that. And the whole fight to go over 4.5 rounds, plus 110. We'll see. But yeah, I like the over. I like the plus money on the over-under. So yeah, but it should be a good card. I'm excited. All right, everybody. Thanks for riding with me. Appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe. Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, all that stuff. Horrible week last week, but, we're going to get them all right this week. I say that every time, but maybe it'll happen this time. I did more research. Weird card, but, maybe it'll be an awesome card. Let's see some upsets. Let's see some violence, and let's see some profits. Good luck, everyone.